Well, hello, Vicky. Thanks for joining us for the first ever Damnation Versus. How are you?
Woohoo!
I just want to jump into this straight away with some of the questions that I couldn't see answered elsewhere. So you get the choice, being a guest. Do you want to talk about Manowar, or do you want to talk about infuriating fans?
Oh, let me think. This is going to be a fun start. I'll let you choose, as it's your first one.
Okay, let's go Manowar now.
Okay.
In all the years of you book the main stage at Bloodstock, this must be the band that you've had requested more times than ever. Now, I've got my own theories why this has never happened, but I'd like to hear from you. Why have Manowar never taken the stage at Bloodstock?
They are incredibly, I'm going to word this in a way that doesn't get me in trouble, because we know how this can go. They are very expensive. And as you know, booking bands, that you have to weigh up what X band will bring in to the festival. So it's more, cost-wise, it would be more suited for download.
Yeah.
And that's an honest answer.
Yeah.
A band like Manowar does actually come with quite a lot of demands.
Yeah. Well, if you know about the hassle that they gave Hellfest last year, ended up cancelling at the last minute, never took the stage. I would say that's a blessing. Manowar are a truly awful live band. However, I'm sure they would be fantastic at Bloodstock. Now, is that annoying for a band like Manowar? Now, they come to the UK and they're not the same size of band as they are maybe in America or Germany.
Yes.
They're not filling stadiums, they're not filling arenas, they're playing academies, much like, in fact, smaller than many of the bands you've already booked. So is that really frustrating from a point of view when you continue to see these requests and you know it can't be fulfilled? Yes.
The annoying thing is, Bloodstock, and I look at it like Manowar, I saw them play Birmingham to 2,000 people. And I think at the time it wasn't even 2,000, there might have been about 1,700 there.
Right.
So to me, Bloodstock offering them a slot to headline, which is where it would be, in front of 18, 20,000 people, would be way bigger than anything they're going to get offered in the UK.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's headline at a festival. So when you have that, and you know, you book bands, when you have that, it's incredibly frustrating, because I know as a band, I've seen them live, they are great. And whether you like Manowar or not, they do put on a fantastic show.
Yeah.
Incredibly loud. They bring their own kit. They bring their own spec. You know, they're very particular about the show. And it's so disappointing. And I can categorically say here, Bloodstock will never be able to book Manowar.
Which is a shame. A shame. I mean, I'm being a little...
It is a shame. No, it is. It is a shame.
I've been a little flippant about, but because I don't like Manowar's neither here nor there. I've booked many bands for Damnation that I don't listen to on record, but some bands are just perfectly suited for a festival, and it's a shame that Manowar will never play what would be their biggest set in the UK, headline Bloodstock. Have you been close? Are we talking astronomical fees that could never be reached, or has there ever been a meeting ground where you were almost there?
Never been a meeting ground, ever. I've had Joey on the phone. I've spoken to him 4 or 5 times, and we've gone into in-depth conversation, and it's never going to happen.
No.
We're not even 50% there.
Yeah.
So
I can understand. I can understand entirely. However,
and it's frustrating because they're a great band. They're a great festival band.
Yeah. Now the other key that you must have, and that I have, is fans who trolls, but not fans, trolls. Before we get started in this, it's without the fans, the Bloodstock, Damnation. It's just a dream in our heads. These guys that show up, that buy the tickets, that support us year in, year out, the events, are absolute heroes that allow us to do this incredible job. However, you do get your first share of shit online, especially Bloodstock, the size that Bloodstock's become now. You guys are damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you book your old school style of European metal or power metal, you're getting crucified by the new fans. If you book the Parkway Drives, you're getting crucified by the old bands. So tell me about that. How does that feel? You put the effort in to get a band like Parkway Drive to come and play an incredible set. You know it's going to be incredible. Yeah. It's well received. Everything's a success, but you have to listen to 500 comments of how shit they are.
It was way more than that on the net. The worst of it was, I was at the Parkway show in London, and we got the band to say we're playing Bloodstock live. Then we synced it so that our socials announced it live. And on the drive home, because I was driving from London to Derby, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to read all the comments. And I always think that the trolls troll louder than the people that like it. Because, and I've always said this, they feel like they need to make it known that what you've done is terrible. They hate the festival, they hate the band, you know. And it kind of, I think those people that love the band don't really want to say anything then, because they feel a bit, well, I don't want to, you know, have to prove a point. So I actually sat in the car, read the comments, and some of the hate, I just looked at Al because he was driving, and I was like, it's ridiculous. It's a fantastic band.
It's totally uncalled for.
And it's uncalled for. This is the thing.
I don't know if it's got worse. I'm hoping that this year out that we've been forced to have, that fans are going to look at these things again. Like, I had that experience when we booked Opeth. Now, Opeth are arguably too big for a festival like Damnation. We couldn't even fit our production on the stage that we have. Yeah. But we paid over the odds what we'd normally pay for a headline to have Opeth. And then when we booked them, it was very much like, but not hate, but just an indifference, a real sort of Napalm Death for a bigger band, and this kind of nonsense that we're hearing. Like, it's a lot to put into a booking, and then, as you say, you're expecting that. Oh, I can't wait to see the fanfare, and then you see it like no.
And I think this is the thing, because when you book a band, you know, it's very split. So the end decision lies with me. Okay. And I'll have to take that gamble, because everybody else in Bloodstock have different roles, if you like. So when it comes to a split decision, they'll go, well, we'll leave it with you, Vic. So if you want to, I know, right? I'll leave it with you. If it all goes terribly wrong, we'll know who to blame.
I've got a slightly different situation at Damnation, that it's all mine. I organise it with one other guy, Paul. However, the money's all mine. The risk is all mine. So
well, there you go then. So that's. But when it's family,
it must be worse.
It's worse.
It must be. I mean, if you get sisters and brothers that are saying, "Oh, well, we've shat the bed there," Vicky.
And then you get that. Oh, she's taking it too far. She's only booking bands that she likes. But then it gets personal, and that's where I've always thought it's unnecessary, because I adore Parkway Drive. I adore loads of bands I've booked. I equally have a lot of bands I've booked that I don't listen to.
Yep. Simple.
So I think that's what they think. You know, we listen to every single band. You know, Gav, you don't listen to every single band or like every single band that you book, but you know what's good for the festival.
But it's not an ego. It's not an ego trip. This is the point. If I was booking all the bands for Damnation across 4 stages and God knows how many genres that only I liked, I mean, what does that say about the person booking the bands, that I don't have any value in anybody else's? I'm not a big fan of thrash music. We've booked all the thrash bands, so. It's sometimes like, that's frustrating as well, because people are like, well, why are you booking that band?
Well, we get all sorts of, well, why have you booked? And there are people, this is the problem, that go, well, you've booked 2 power metal bands, 4 thrash bands, some black metal bands, but where's this shot? And I'm like, really? You have gone and counted up the different genres. And now...
I'm going to love this conversation. This should just be a private conversation.
Should really, we'll have to have that separately.
But you can't counteract that either. The same way you can book. I've had a year where we've booked 5 or 6 thrash bands and no black metal. And got the shit for the black metal fans. And then the following year, it's vice versa. And then it's almost as if the year before didn't happen. That all those bands never played. And likewise, you get some guys that come in again with trolling fans. Why don't you ever book? You ever heard of a band, Anno Nathrak? I'm like, they've played 6 times.
I know, I get that as well. Yeah,
and I know that
it's so frustrating, because you know I'll always go on and say the same thing. The band weren't available. We did put an offer in, or we might have only had them the year before, or they weren't touring, or they're in the studio, or they're this, or they're that. So I do actually try and go on and say this is not a judgment call. You know, we've not gone out and booked X amount, and I actually don't. We try and balance it like you would do, so that we've got a good balance across the bill, so that the headliners offer a different variation and stuff. But it's not as simple. It's not as simple as that. But when people start sort of counting up, you know, oh, she's only booked them because she likes them. She won't book any power metal anymore. And this is an honest thing to say. Power metal does not sell tickets for us. And, you know, we started as a power metal festival to 1,000 people 20 years ago.
Yep.
But if we based ourselves now on a power metal festival, we would have died years ago.
That's the same. We never really started it with any real genre in mind. However, we are very extreme in a lot of death metal. But death metal, when you're saying about people who are negative or the loudest online, death metal fans are the loudest online. I mean, you would think that Dying Fetus or Suffocation, these bands would headline your festival and sell it in a heartbeat. And the truth is, it doesn't happen. And even when you go to their own headline shows in Glasgow, there's 80 people there. But that, it doesn't register at some point, and it's just like, no, but why Opeth when it could be Suffocation? Oh.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
And it's frustrating because you're the person that's going to take the shit.
Yes.
I mean, I've had, over the years, I've had death threats sent to me because I've booked certain bands. I've got a certain set of trolls that meme me constantly and have done for about 3-4 years.
Really? That's too much. I mean,
and it's not necessary, and they are grown men. It's, you know, at the end of the day, I've got to the point now where I'm so thick-skinned with it. I'm like, I get sent all kinds of memes that have been made about me and negative comments and people saying that, oh, she gets this happens to her or that happens to her.
Yeah,
it's not necessary.
No, absolutely not. And you feel you've got quite a large online profile. I mean, you've got your TikTok dancing now, and you've got Instagram.
Yeah.
You feel that, but I don't, for whatever reason, do you feel that you're a target there because people can see you and easy to identify?
I've always been an open book, and I always try not to take myself too seriously. So when I started TikToking, because, you know, you can't do that and you can't do that, well, why can't you?
Yeah,
I mean, I might be 40 in my 40s, but I'm like, well, I still want to have fun. I've still got the mind of a 20-year-old.
Of course.
And, you know, I've always been very like that. So, yes, there might be an element of, because I engage with people and maybe I'm quite active online,
yep,
I kind of open myself up for it.
It's kind of sad, though. It's sad that that's even a reasoning behind it, you know, because you are visual online and people say that you might get these death threats, or maybe it's a male-female thing, people think you're an easier target. Who knows? But anyway, I'm disgusted to hear that. Anyway, I'm sorry to hear that.
You know what? I've got to the point where it is what it is, and you know, I kind of think people will always, unfortunately, be people. Yeah. And the problem is, and I've always said this, like when you book bands for an event, you're never going to please 20,000 people. No. And I stopped trying to do that. I used to, years ago, when we started booking bands, try and go, oh, we need these amount of people to like the band and we can't have too much negativity. And it got to the point where I was like, you are never going to please thousands of people.
No.
Ever.
No. And you know, as you say, it's a good thing as well. We booked, so back in 2006, booked Skindred and saw no positive feedback about Skindred. Skindred played, the room was packed, everyone had the best show. And it's like, sometimes I think it takes if you're a promoter, it takes a few shows and a few years for you to realise that what you hear and see online is such a small part of the actual reality of what happens. And how many of these people that are bouncing about Skindred are even involved in your Facebook page or your Twitter account?
That's the other thing. It's the tail wagging dog.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it that, like Skindred, one of the best live bands you will ever see. They're fun, they're energetic, he's a great front man, the band have got banging songs. And this, we had it with, oh my God, we've had it with so many bands. We had it with Europe, the infamous Europe year, right? I've never seen, or everyone like, the festival's dead to me, all the rest of it. And it was just a fun rock band back then. Yeah. And you've never seen so many people wearing corpse paint singing the final countdown.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, where are you now? You know, and it was, again, a packed audience. And you never, like Hatebreed. How can you hate Hatebreed? But when we booked Hatebreed, the uproar was massive.
Yeah.
Biggest crowd ever. I mean...
It's insane. Although I have to say, I don't want this to be a negative. They were the two hot potatoes. I thought, I'll fire these at a thought, break the ice. So I don't want this to... I've got a lot of very positive things to say and for us to chat about.
No, you can say negative. I can take it.
But just while we're talking about fan reaction, Merciful Fate, sorry, you're saying Hatebreed, I'm saying Merciful Fate. What a reaction to those guys. That is... I'm a big Behemoth fan, but Merciful Fate I would describe as like a perfect festival booking. You can see Behemoth, you can open your back door curtains and see Behemoth playing. They're there that often, you know. They're with Slipknot, they're out there at the gates, they're playing every festival. How often? I've never seen Merciful Fate. So
this is the thing, and to put them as headline, because it's a big show for them in the UK.
Yeah.
It was coupling them with Dimmu, and Dimmu were going to be in the studio. So then when I went to Dimmu and said, "Would you like to support Merciful Fate?" I'm like, oh, "Okay, yeah." It wasn't really. Oh, we were going to be in the studio, but yeah, we'll do that one.
That's one worth coming out for. Great.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I was gutted that Behemoth couldn't do it. I adore the band. We've had them so many times. They're great guys, but I think it's a great replacement, and it's a band we've not had before. So.
No, perfect. You know. I was glad when it was announced, and I was also, because I was preparing to chat with yourself, I was scrolling through the comments. I say, see, if this is another hate fest, I'm done. I'm cancelling.
No, I like this because you're dead honest and I'm dead candid, so that's good.
But it was great. It was good. I mean, you still get the folk that come into it, just like a moan. If it's not their favourite band, they want to moan anyway. But even the guys that might not have been the biggest fans were saying, "Oh, great booking," or "This will go well," and it just seemed like a good response. So I was delighted to see that, at least, and it's not always
nice. You know, you've had it yourself where you get a band and they just. I mean, I had to troll to try and find some negative comments. And there was one guy who said, "Yeah, I mean, I hate the band, but actually you did book who they asked for, so I can't really say any more than that."
Exactly.
And I was like, fair point, you know?
Somebody just conceding defeat at the point. I want to moan, but I'm not quite sure how to.
It's like, I hate them, but, you know, you booked who they wanted, so I can't really say any more than that. I was like, great.
And Behemoth, so they had other commitments? You managed to get so much of the festival, just not them?
Yes. Basically, they had a tour planned.
Right.
And, I mean, this has been a horrendous juggling of... Because obviously bands, it's not just put their festivals back, it's their tour plans, their new albums that are going to be delayed. So they just had this tour in mind that they wanted to do. And I was completely respectful of that. You know, I'll welcome the band back at any time. I get it. It was great that we managed to get as much of the bill rolled over as we did. But it's worked out. It's worked out in, you know, our favour at the moment. Yeah.
And I know you're not going to be able to announce any bands to me exclusively. However, in a percentage of 1 being Behemoth will not headline in 2022 and 10 being will definitely headline in 2022, where would you say?
We'd definitely get them to, if we can get them to headline in 22, then why not? You know, I've got a couple of big options already locked in for 22.
Perfect.
Believe it or not. But that's only because I feel like this year we've wiped the year out.
Yeah.
So I keep thinking we're in 21 already, because probably like you and everybody else, this year is just a write-off for me now. Yeah. Nothing's going to happen. I'm not probably going to get to go to a gig or do anything.
Yeah.
And everyone we're talking to is talking about 21.
Absolutely. So what's happened is the plans that you would already, would been such a larger event than something like Damnation. You were already looking at what would have been 2021's headliners or biggest bands anyway, sort of a year and a bit in advance. So you've got a couple of those bands already locked in for 2022 now.
Yes, well, the annoying thing is nobody knows this, so this is kind of an exclusive. We were going to announce at this year's festival 2 headliners for 21.
Okay.
Had this festival happened. And obviously, I then had to go to said headliners and say, well, you know, the right thing to do. I mean, this is the awkward thing. No one's been in this position before.
Of course.
So the right thing to do is offer all the bands of 20 the option to roll over, because that is the right thing.
Yep.
And the 2 bands concerned were completely understanding of it. They were like, I mean, I've not had an agent, band or manager that's not been understanding.
Folk have been decent. I mean, agents, they've got their role to play. The promoters, we've got our role to play. We have our fights in the middle, but everyone has been fantastic. The band's been fantastic. I mean, Damnation this year, I mean, the chances of that happen are slim to none at the moment. However, we're going to hold out to the end of the month if nothing's making that progress.
I'm praying you do. You're like the light. And I've said this. I was talking to Cameron and some other people, and I said, Damnation needs to happen, because it would be this one shining light of a gig this year. It'd
be such a great marker for 2021, because we're all putting our hopes in 2021 at the moment without, I mean, ultimately we're getting to January 1st, we're just kind of hoping, like, okay, that's it better now, but that's not going to be the case. So, well, like, if Damnation could go, then everybody could feel better about like, there's actually been some live music. It's been trialled again. So, I mean, we had 10 bands announced, and I think 8 or 9 of them were American. So those guys are out now anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not to say, if you give me 6 weeks, I could promote a good UK-based Damnation. What I'm not going to do is promote a socially distanced Damnation that have everyone excited about the chance to come back to a metal event and then standing a metre apart, or me being liable.
I mean, I saw these pens. I saw this gig with the, and I was like, and we were no, gigs have to be able to come back with no socially distancing. Yeah. You cannot socially distance at an event. No,
especially not. Our shows, especially not Bloodstock or Damnation. No. The point is just going to let your hair down, get back crazy. We've got an older fan base that want to come for that one day and then get back to their mortgages and their kids and everything else, just to have the hangover and then go on with it. What they don't want to do is come to something like Damnation and sit a couple of metres apart in their own wee pens and the bubbles. So fingers crossed, Vicky. I appreciate you saying.
I pray, and honestly, I would be so happy. Literally, we're hinching on you happening. So we do this.
The capacity is only 4,000 if we sell out, and the guest list probably going to be 3,000 of that. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh please, honestly, right? And do you know what? Even Evil Scarecrow got some shows in December.
Yeah.
At like 200-300 capacity, and I'm willing them to happen because it would be something at the end. And do you know what the worst of it is? I kind of look at it that we've come so far with this pandemic since March.
Yep.
And it feels like to me, it feels like 2 years because I can't even remember pre-pandemic now.
No.
So I think, what could another 6 to 8 weeks bring? I know.
Things are going in the right direction. You guys the North England get hit with sort of the localised lockdowns, which kind of, I'm in Glasgow, so we're doing okay, but at the same, it's just the next day waiting for the next cluster. So when I go bits of Manchester have been closed down, we're back into shutdown again. I was like, this is really starting to trend in the wrong direction again, you know? Like,
I know. And it does this.
I'd have been a wee bit more positive 3 weeks ago than I am maybe today, but I'm not even losing sleep about it because there's nothing we can do. And this kind of leads me on to my next question with you. Like, so let's rewind a bit to Bloodstock having to make that decision. You seem, from my point of view, you've done it quite professionally, because when you guys announced you were cancelled this year, you also done it with the hope of a future. Here's a lineup you've already bought your tickets for. Here's all the bands we've managed to secure. The work that must have, I mean, I know the kind of work we'd have to go in to keep, but 50 bands still on that poster. But there was a lot of flack beforehand for you guys, for that Tangent, for any festival and that sort of August, like Leeds and Reading, that hadn't already cancelled. How difficult was that couple of weeks, and how did you...
You see, it frustrated me because this all happened so quick. This is what people forget. Yep. So by the time that the pandemic was kind of with us in March to when we cancelled in May, that's really quick.
Yes.
From knowing there's a problem to having to deal with it. So when we realised sort of end of April, beginning of May, that look, we need to give this a cut-off point, and I think our cut-off was 3rd week of May, because we've got suppliers and bands to start paying.
Yep.
And we need to let the public know. So the reason we waited 10 days is because I had to then secure the lineup. So I had to go out to every agent, but you know what it's like, every agent, band manager, and say, look, not only can we get you for next year, and we need then an answer, can we announce you with the cancellation? Which
is a bigger problem, because to get the band tied in, I'm not saying it's an easy job, but that's the easiest part of it. That's one thing. After that, it's like, well, hold on a second, what exclusive deals would have with the European festivals? How's this going to affect touring for the plans that we had in 2021? So how did you manage that in 10 days?
It's a very, very, very hard work, and I literally we just grafted. I mean, the good thing is with a lot of the bands, there were sort of 2 or 3 bands where it was one agent. So you would go out and say, look, I need to get this locked in. I need to get this nailed in. The headliners, special guests, and third. So I did it as sort of like a top tier down, because I'm like, if we can go out with some heavy hitters, even if we can't secure all the low end bands, we can go out with a poster of as many. And I'm not kidding. I can't even say, I'm not saying I'm going to say it was easy, but it was like, people were like, yeah, fully understand, count us in. And the amount of emails that just said, count us in for next year, announce us on the poster.
Yeah.
Even the agents, the bigger agents, were coming back pretty much straight away. I mean, Judas Priest is with a fairly big agent, and he was like, within 4 or 5 days, it was done.
Yeah, and that speaks to what you were saying earlier about how the industry's been with this pandemic. It is a situation that they haven't dealt with before. People are now digging their heels in and saying, well, if we come back, we want X amount extra, or, you know, it's been great. And anyone that we've looked at for potentially coming back in 2021's been the same sort of situation. Let's just copy and paste 2020 to 2021. Yeah. And because everyone had these plans took months and months of preparation. The routing of a full tour, never mind just stopping off at Bloodstock, and they want to just make that happen again. So that was great.
I mean, this is the thing though. It's the bands get it, the agents get it, you know. And when we went out, so there's nothing worse than announcing bad news with no good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you announce a cancellation or a postponement, whatever you want to call it. You want to be able to go out with, but hey, don't worry. This, you know, because obviously what you're asking people to do as well, hopefully, is roll their ticket over. Well, no one's going to roll their ticket over unless they know who they're rolling it over for.
Yeah, and completely unknown. And then they don't know the financial situation of the bands, the promoters, the companies behind it. So they might be a bit like, well, I'd rather just take my chances, take my money back, and then if there is a Bloodstock 2021. So that's been, seems like when I listened to the interview, or not the interview, the Q&A you've done with your brother Adam, and it seemed like there was a high uptake on your rolling over to next year.
Yeah, we had, I think it was 92% rolled over.
Incredible.
And that's massive. And you know what? We were dead honest with people. We were like, look, we'll give you 6-7 weeks to get a refund. There was no mad rush, you know, because, you know, you've got plenty of time to apply for it. We were very transparent with the refund option. And we were prepared, I'll be dead honest, for at least 50-60% to refund.
Okay.
Because we were thinking, you know, pandemic, people with money and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, that is, it's easy for a promoter to say, oh, our fans are great, or they're loyal. That's just the proof's in the pudding, really, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to get 92% of your fans are going to basically say, look, keep my money for another year and we'll come and support it next
year. Weirdly, we had a woman wanting a refund on 2 VIPs, and this always makes me smile. So we gave her a refund straight away. The next day she rebought them. And she went, I don't know what I was thinking. So we were like, that's cool, you know.
Moment of panic. She's like, oh, live music's done forever. No, in fact, look, can you imagine if you're that woman and then it happens and you can't get your VIP ticket?
Oh, no, you see, this was the thing, because we've sold out of VIP, and I think she was sort of going along those lines. But I think, and maybe this was the same for all of us, I think 2021, we will all be so desperate for festivals, gigs. I mean, I'm mad now. The last gig I was at Slipknot in January.
Was that January? Yeah.
I've been to anything small, medium. I would go to the opening of a car wash if I was invited. I really would.
It's been desperate. It's been desperate for the last few months. The booking process. So I'm really interested in this from the Bloodstock's point of view. How usually you've got the final say. So how does that? You're looking at your main stage. Let's say for talking sake, you've got £1 million, right, for to split across your 3 days. So do you look at that and say, right, okay, well, my headliners need to be 200k, that one's 100k, or do you get one big band that costs more than the rest, and then how do you play it? How do you? Not really.
We do look at. So you've got your 3 days split on your main stage. The majority of our budget will go main stage.
Yeah.
And then we will split it. Now, obviously, you know, you'll look at X bands, so you'll have 3 headliners, and the great thing is each band headline would be around about the same price. That will never happen. It's never happened. Yeah. There's always a sort of discrepancy there. And you'll look at ideally paying X amount each day. The joke of it is Rachel, who's my fellow director who looks after the budget side, I just spend it. So it's like I go shoe shopping with her money. And she'll be always like, Vicky, you know, can you please be careful that we're within budget?
Yeah.
So Adam and Rachel will have an opinion, but they won't, because they don't class themselves as that side of things in the band process. Me and Simon and a couple of other core people will discuss bands. Then it'll be down to sort of me and Simon, and then it'll be down to if it's not a worry, because I feel awful saying this about Parkway Drive. There was will this cause a shitstorm if we book them? And yes, it would, was my opinion, because that's just, if we're not booking Manowar or whatever else, sometimes it causes that. But someone's got to say, yes.
Yeah.
So that was me. So you'll take the gamble. So the budget, we'll have an overall budget. The majority of it goes on the main stage. X amount will go onto the Sophie Lancaster stage. and then I'll try and ideally split it in 3. It never works like that.
Yeah.
You know, and normally I'm saying to Rachel, I'm a little bit over.
Yeah.
You know,
see, it's okay. So you get something like Damnation for our ticket price at 45, 50 quid. I've got a budget for the 4 stages, pretty much again the same. Most of it goes in the main stage, but I'm looking at the main stage headline on, say, 35 grand, 40 grand as far as I can go, right? If I do any more than that amount of money, I need to decimate the other 3 stages, really put a weak support cast underneath the headliner or up the ticket price, which I'm not keen on. Do you have that flexibility within the main stage of Bloodstock? Can you say, right, okay, I'm going to go with 200 grand in my headliner and then everything else suffers? Or do you set yourself a value for as far as you can go? And if the band come over that limit, say a Manowar, obviously, then that's just where you stop?
Yeah, we'll have a budget for a headliner, and I will not go past a certain amount, because otherwise what will then happen is you'll have less to spend on the rest of the bill. So what I've always said, because I don't like it, there is nothing worse than going for just one massive headliner, blowing your budget on that, and then being like, well, fuck it, underneath will just be whatever I can get. Because this sounds really corny. I kind of look at it that Bloodstock's the headliner. It's got to be. I don't want necessarily, you know, it's like people always go to me, oh, you never book Iron Maiden. No, because it would be an Iron Maiden show. A, we can't ever afford them.
Yeah.
But B, then you wouldn't be coming to Bloodstock. You would be coming to an Iron Maiden show.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the difference. Yeah. And the amount of people that go, oh, I don't see why they wouldn't fit Bloodstock. Well, of course they wouldn't fit Bloodstock. They sell 40,000 tickets on their own.
Yeah. And within that remit that you've got, or the budget you've got, is there a band that's eluded you? You're like, Jesus, these guys, I need to get this band booked. And it's not because they're AC/DC and they cost too much, or it's not because they've been difficult. You've just not managed to, your paths haven't crossed yet. Is there someone out there you're still keen to get?
I mean, I desperately want Body Count, and it's never worked because he's filming and he gets 2 weeks off in August, and it's never felt. I mean, there'd be a cracking Bloodstock edition.
It'd be amazing.
Honestly, we get asked so much for Body Count. I tweet him and he tweets me back and he's like, yeah, let's make it happen. It never happens. And that's more frustrating. You see, what I also do is I get fans to tweet bands. If I can't get them, if it's all going to shit, and this has happened so many times, and we did it with Priest, you know, we went after Priest for 5 years. And I like, right. So I put a tweet out just to say, hey, does everyone want to just tweet Priest and say, and it does work, because the amount of band members that come up to me and go, yeah, I saw that you got your fans to tweet us.
And that's great. It's a move. We're not big in Twitter, so maybe that's something I need to think.
Honestly, right? It works. Because the thing is, it's a lot of bands, I've always said this, sometimes don't feel, A, that they know the event well enough, or B, it's not an event for them. And I've had a lot of bands that have actually changed their mind after they've played.
Yeah.
So I always think if you sort of tweet them or get the fans to sort of show the love, if you like,
absolutely,
that actually does work.
Absolutely. And for us, because we book post-rock that you guys don't book at Bloodstock, and almost to every band, it's always, why would we play a metal? I don't understand, metal fans aren't going to come. Why would a metal fan come and watch a band like Mono? And you're like, look, the stage will be packed. The stage will be packed. And time again, you get these post-rock bands that show up and play maybe Schwell, these types of bands. They don't play metal. Crowds don't get invited to play metal gigs. And they show up at Damnation. And that's what I love. My favourite type of music is post-rock and post-metal.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was trying to do it special. I was just trying, maybe that's a wee bit of my ego with that one, that I just wanted the bands that I like.
You know what?
But it worked.
It works. And you know, like we had Mr. Big, and when we announced them, oh my God, you'd think I'd just announced Little Mix. We had such a split. And I was like, it's Mr. Big, right? Whenever we look at it, it's going to be fun. It's a Sunday afternoon. You'll all be hungover. You want a few sing-songs.
Absolutely.
It worked brilliantly. They moan about it, but they're all there, front and centre.
Absolutely. So, as is always the way. And no one ever contacts you afterwards and says, oh, by the way, I was wrong. You never get that.
Yeah, no one actually comes to me. Yeah, they don't, do they? No one actually comes to you and go, you know that shit I gave you for 12 months?
Aye.
I'm sorry. I've never had that.
I had such a good time. So bands, talking about bands booking, you come to me in 2022 and say, look, I'm having a year off, Gavin. I need you to book my headliners. Here's the headliners that we're going to go for, and how close, if you've ever been close to these bands. Now, I think with the bands you've booked, these are realistic. Deftones.
Deftones Deftones we definitely have, and we have put offers in.
Okay.
And it's just never worked.
Okay,
but it would be a great band for the festival.
That would be fantastic. 9 Inch Nails?
No, we've never approached them.
Okay, and finally, because...
Yeah, go on.
And finally, because you wouldn't be able to afford Tool, A Perfect Circle?
Yeah, why not?
Has that ever been...
No, we've never done it. Never approached. In 20 years. Which kind of makes me think that's quite bad, really.
See, when we're talking about bands that haven't played, not huge bands, but they would headline the main stage, but bands that Electric Wizard have never played Bloodstock.
I have every year I go after Electric Wizard. In fact, it's a little bit like Bolt Thrower.
Yep.
Who you got, and hats off.
Yep.
Right? I will be honest, I pursued Bolt Thrower for years, to the point where I actually thought to myself, I just don't think they like the festival at all.
They were, like, let's be honest, they were odd to book. I approached them every year since 2005. In 2014, they finally just came back. And there was no, like, every band that you and I have ever booked, there's a process to it. The Bolt Thrower didn't have a process. It was like, make one offer. You can't come back and then give me a better offer or say sorry because you undercut. But just make one offer. They'll have one discussion about it. And if
and it's one email address.
Yeah,
there's no
a Hotmail account.
It's a Hotmail account. And I was like, am I being catfished? And then it's that kind of... So when you announced, when you got them, I actually sat with sort of my head in the hands and I was like, fair fucking play.
Right.
Because I've tried for years to get Bolt Thrower.
It would have been great.
You know, and same with Electric Wizard. If they're watching this, I try every year. And I feel that I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, I wonder if that one's a bit like they're still. You've still get bands that are maybe looking at Bloodstock as still being that power metal festival. They've not kind of caught up with it. Electric Wizard have never struck me as the kind of band with that. I mean, I love them. I've played Damnation plenty of times, but they're not the kind of band that I think keep up with trends or focus too much. Or they like their scene and that's that. So that's interesting.
I mean, it's never worked, and it has been a band I've gone after for a long time. And I think, and then people go, you try harder. you can only stalk a band so much before they go. You just go, well, look, all right, it's not going to work, is it ever?
Yeah,
I
mean, I totally get it. I was going through some of the old lineups, and that was just one of those UK bands. I mean, there's plenty of bands for Europe or America, or whatever. They're maybe bigger than their country and maybe not worth it or not on your radar. But Electric Wizard, that's a strange one. That's not for you guys.
And it would be great. I mean, I think as well, and I'll be brutally honest, they wanted to be. I think the last time I approached them, I think they wanted to be higher than we could offer them.
Right. And
it's the old one off against the other that, with 20,000 capacity. So yes, you might be playing events at 2,000-3,000, but we then can't offer you, let's say, a headline or special guest because it's not going to work. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. In terms of Bloodstock, so next year you're adding the extra day. Canton Hall is a place you're saying is a 20,000 cap. If you guys, is it a longer term plan for expansion? Will that site allow it, or are you guys like Damnation's one of these places now? It just is what it is. It can't really go anywhere else, so it just does what it does, and I've kind of accepted that. With Bloodstock, are you guys trying to be download or where no? God no. Andy and I are as people know, we're very good friends. I don't want to do what he does. He does a very good job of it. I think at the most, Bloodstock will get to 25,000. We're at 20 now.
Yeah.
We don't have any ambition to be getting above that because the whole point with Bloodstock is it's manageable as an outdoor event. If it gets any bigger, you will lose the entire thing that people like about the festival. Yeah. That you don't have to go too far from the Sophie stage to the main and to your tent and to the beer tent and to the Dodgems and whatever else you want to do. It's all fairly close knit. If we were 30, 40,000, and also the other problem is if we were 30, 40,000, I would be going after the kind of bands that Download have got on their main stage.
Yes.
So
which is why Parkway Drive are important to Bloodstock as well, because you need those bands. You can't just go to Megadeth every year and say, please guys, come back and do the 15th set. I mean, Slayer have done now. Where else do you go? You need bands. Until these, I mean, you've brought up Gojira. You guys had Gojira headline. You had Ghost headline. So you guys are bringing these bands up and giving them that opportunity at a major festival in the UK. But they're not always there. Yep.
But this is the thing, because otherwise, and we all know it, if we don't bring Ghost up, Gojira up, other bands up, who are we going to get to headline? Like you say, are we going to go after Priest and Megadeth and Scorpions every year?
Yep.
You know, and eventually these bands will retire. You know, and then who have we got? So Gojira now, fantastic band. Ghost are doing arenas on their own. So when we had Ghost, you know, people were like, oh, should they not be special guests? Well, no. They put on this amazing show. You know, the fan reception to them was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like Devin Townsend. You know, Devin Townsend is he's bringing so much to the game because of the way he is and the way he thinks. And I just think as a festival, I think if people stop looking at necessarily a headliner and going, well, I don't know if that's a headliner-worthy band. Look at the event as the headliner, and you're spending 140 quid on, well, now 5 days, not 4. You know, we can't make the event any more cost-effective than it is, and that's an honest answer. I mean, you know what the bands cost, what we've got infrastructure and all the rest of it because it's outdoors. You know, but yeah, no more than 25,000, and I think even that might be too big. I think 20,000 to 22,000 realistically is our cap.
That'd be spot on, and you're about the 20,000 mark at the moment, so doing well for it. And have you got a lot of tickets left for with the rollover? Is a lot of tickets left for next year, or how you fixed?
We've sold out of VIP and camper vans, and I mean things like that. It's amazing that they sell out so quickly.
Yeah.
And we're about 78% sold out for next year, which is great.
Which is even more ridiculous now, given the
well, you know, the worst bit is, this is the ridiculous thing, and I can't even explain why. So when we announced the postponement, right, and I can't even get my head around it, we had a massive rush of tickets.
Yeah.
With no rhyme or reason
as
to why.
It felt a wee bit like the community rallying. I mean,
yeah.
Just to stop the boredom and humdrum of the lockdown. I done a Q&A and a wee raffle, some bolt thrower merch and bits and bobs. I mean, nothing really. And it went crazy. It was 250 tickets. People they might not even be that interested in the bolt thrower merch. What they want to do is just support Damnation. Just do something, get involved with something.
But don't you think that's great?
It is fantastic.
That the fans because I saw it, I watched it, and you were brilliant on that, and you really entertained me because I watch everyone's, you know.
I did a drink that night. I made sure that I'm not doing that tonight.
I know, but the thing is, you're good, and you really, you know, because you're quite personable, and you know, you say it as it is, which people do really love.
One guy asked if I was talking Croatian, so
why?
I was like, if I'm going to do a few of these podcasts, I'm going to need to. I mean, I'm never going to lose the accent, but maybe.
No, you can't lose the accent. I was actually worried because I was thinking, I hope I understand everything Gav says, but crystal clear, Gav.
Perfect. Right, just before I let you go, and I really appreciate you doing this, we were going to chuck a couple of things at you. So, Altfest. Do you remember Altfest?
Oh my God, yes. And Simon got blamed for the postponement of Altfest.
So when we see these one-dayers pop up every year, some of them do well, some of them collapse straight away. Everybody thinks you book a band, if they sold that in London, they're definitely going to sell it at your festival. But Altfest just tried to be Bloodstock in a day. They're just like, okay, here we come with Marilyn Manson.
Yes, and I'll tell you what annoys me about certain things, because the Altfest thing, I look at it and think, I get it, book the bands and they will come, right? So promoters come and they go, we're going to do a 1-2 day event, we'll just get a feel, how difficult it's going to be, we're going to book a few bands. I think that agents should have blood on their hands, because when we started out years ago, agents used to ask us how financially viable we were as an event in the early days.
That's true.
And they used to really make it that, well, we're not sending bands your way because we don't know if you can afford them. So agents and managers who have never dealt with a promoter before booked some fairly big-sized bands for that event. And they didn't sort of, I suppose, question the viability of, hang on a minute. Because what I hate about this industry is when an event cancels, it kind of sends shudders.
It does.
And it unnerves the rest of the metal community. Like, oh my God, you know, Altfest is cancelled. What happens if Bloodstock?
It's more difficult to sell tickets because people lose trust in the events.
Yeah.
So with Altfest then, when you guys were watching it, and it was a very Bloodstock. I mean, they had Cradle of Filth and Arch Enemy and Paradise Lost, and obviously Manson was their big standout headliner. You guys, it must have been in a bit of similar time frame of Bloodstock as well. So you guys like, look, seems like a bit of a disaster waiting to happen, or you think like this is just something to deal with?
In all honesty, I thought the way it came about really quick. I was very sceptical that it would happen, because I think they'd gone with, because I knew that the promoter wasn't a big back company. You know, if it's Live Nation or someone, they can afford to lose money. When you're going in your first year as a small promoter with some fairly big acts, you can lose your arse quite quickly. Unless you can afford it, it's a problem. Yeah. So my only concern was, well, I hope that they can. Yeah. And I was just thinking it's quite a gamble. Yeah. You know, they were really new to the event. It popped up from nowhere. And I just thought they're going to need to sell like 10,000 tickets.
I don't know where. You know, it's not like it's.
I know where. I mean, it's taken
Marilyn Manson does 10,000 tickets in the arena, but that's not going to transfer to a field and wherever the hell they're having it.
It doesn't.
What kind of caught me when they'd made a statement about when they were starting to struggle, and they'd said something ridiculous like Arch Enemy sell 3,000 tickets and Cradle of Filth sell 2,000 tickets, so we knew we were going to get 5,000 ticket sales. Like, Jesus, like that's the first thing you ever learn as a promoter is if 100 of your best friends tell you they're going to buy a ticket, you're lucky if 10 do. I mean,
correct. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, the thing is as well, I remember a promoter had said something to the effect of, well, you know, we went on their Facebook likes as to how many. Well, that works. Right. You know, I mean, and this is the thing, you can't say, well, X band does X amount of tickets.
No.
So they're going to bring, I base it on the fact of they're going to bring no one.
Yeah.
You've got to, because otherwise you're going to lull yourself into this false sense of security that, you know, and it's going back to the Manowar thing. Yeah. You know, Manowar at one point said to me, well, if you book us, we can guarantee 5,000 people from abroad that will come to the UK just to see us. And I'm like,
maybe,
all right, then.
Not.
We'll pay you on that basis. Well, no. Well, you just said you can guarantee it. So,
well, that's the agent trick, isn't it? Every agent tells you what they sold in London. And they're like, promoting leads.
You know what I always come back with that? When they go, well, they did 5,000 tickets in London. I say, tell what they did in the north.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they did 5,000 tickets in Newcastle or further north, I'm interested.
Yeah.
You know, because without being awful, and you know it, a lot of bands can sell tickets in London.
Yeah. I mean, some shows. I mean, I promoted a few local tours, and we'll have show. Cult of Luna might do 400 or 500 tickets in Glasgow, and then 1,000 tickets in London. I mean, literally doubling the. Yeah. It's just whenever I'm dealing with agencies, just don't even tell me the London number. It's almost irrelevant. It might as well be Spain. Just leave the London. But it's true what you say as well. It's the damage that these events. We've had one-day events or weekend events that have come out and been very similar to Damnation, and then died, and then 2 years later you'll get a band that I've offered, say, £500 and say, well, I get £1,500 at X event. I say, well, where is that event? It's dead.
Yeah.
It's
like that's the point. We had there was one in Scotland.
Heavy Scotland.
Yes. It cancelled, didn't it?
It did. Well, they had their first year, for whatever reason, they managed to get Behemoth in that first year, which, I mean, fair play to the organisers, didn't it? But then they get into a bit of spat with other festival in Scotland, Lord of the Lands, and they've done it the same weekend, which is insane. Because you think, I would love to do Damnation in Glasgow. I don't want to get in a car and drive 5 hours to Leeds anytime I want to promote, so I'd love to. But the English don't like to travel north of Carlisle. So at the very start, I was like, let's be realistic. Let's get it down in Manchester, Leeds, Bradford, wherever. Find a venue. And then you might entice people from London. You might entice people from... And that's exactly what happened. And we managed to get decent crowds. But these guys ended up competing with each other in a country that really was...
no sense.
So,
and the thing was, it sounds awful. You kind of gauge it. You can see it coming.
Yeah.
Because I would say... You know that you started from small. Bloodstock started from small. We're only at 20,000 after 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? You know what it's like to build tickets up. I wish it worked on a basis of book the bands and they will come. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So, you know, no one knows who you are, your publicity, your PR and all the rest of it.
There's no reason to trust you.
No, that's the other thing.
You made that comment earlier when we booked when we booked bands at the start, tried to book My Dying Bride back in 2005, 2006, and it was almost like going from a university interview, trying to get a guy to trust that I was an agent. And then
that's how it was.
Yeah, we booked another big band. I don't want to mention because I'm still going quite well with the agent, booked another band. They wanted 100% of their fee up front, which is unheard of. And I'm like, we've been going for 5 or 6 years about it. He says, but I've not worked with you and I want this a full fee. And I'm like, I guess 8 months that you're going to be sitting with my 10, 12 grand.
But that's why I was surprised with Altfest, because when it came out with a big number of bands, you know, and I knew various number of agents that had represented those bands, I was like, well, this is a promoter that's come from nowhere, that's not backed by a big player, and there's a hell of a lot of trust going into that. You know, when we started out, like you, it was a prove your financial worth.
Yeah.
You know, and it's difficult back then because you really didn't have any because you just started out. So, you know. Right.
So you're kind of paying over the odds, hoping for a bit of faith. And then ultimately you get the events and that reputation starts to build up. You pay your bands, even the bands that come and kind of don't really do what they're supposed to do for you, they get paid in full and we are where we are. So that's been great. Vicky, like last chance for any exclusive, any scoop that you want to give me?
Oh God, you see, you put me on the spot. Had you asked me, I could say something. Exclusive.
What about one band for next year that's not been announced yet? One smaller band
that's not been announced yet.
Rachel said fine.
I think the problem is we've announced most of them.
You're good. The family have trained you well.
Oh no, we have. We've announced most of them. There is a band that this is a guessing game now. There is a band on the bill. I'll leave this for people to guess who it is that we haven't announced yet, and that will be announced again. And it's quite a requested band. So if they were announced
for last year, then you've had to try and get through the legwork.
It's going to be like Where's Wally, basically.
Okay, is it a genre or are we leaving it at that?
No, we can't do genres because that's not fair because you guess it straight away. Come on, give me something to work with.
Perfect. Vicky, I hugely appreciate you doing this. It's been
thank you, and you're brilliant. I'd love to do one with you again. We'll have a really candid, because I didn't know how it was going to go, so we'll have a really candid. Really? And people maybe can ask us the worst questions.
Yeah. I want to be clear because we might come across this as like, look at us, we know how to promote. We're just doing what we can, you know. Especially. You know what the worst bit is?
Wing it, right?
Aye.
You know, I mean, not being funny, before, and you might, I don't know if you were the same, but before Bloodstock, none of us had worked with bands. And I remember my brother saying, oh, just, I tell you what, you book bands, I'll do the website, Rachel will do this, and just give it a go. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. So, you know, when people think that you've got some kind of degree.
And I also, some people go into this like it's brain surgery. The only reason that Damnation's really done well is hard work and a wee bit of trust and faith. And also I'd recommend to anybody who wants to start a Bloodstock or a Damnation, do it, but do it the right way. You know, like...
You know what I would say? Don't lie. Because I always think if you can keep your morals and raise the bar, as I call it, and just be the most honest person, even if people don't want to hear it, you're telling them the truth and you'll never get caught out.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that sounds really like...
It comes back. There was a weird situation in 2007 where I hadn't paid a security bill, or it was a crew that they'd missed off the invoice, and they came back to me months later and said, oh, you owe us £700. I was like, well, how sort of business is this? I mean, you don't put it on the invoice and now I need to go. But I said, you know what? Right, okay, there's a £700 for the crew, whatever done. 2 or 3 years later, that same crew helped me at a spot when the crew that we had, and I was like, this is, you talk about karma. These guys are now pulling for Damnation when I would be up shit creek with a panel.
Yeah, but that's the point. Karma.
That is exactly the point. With the whole, if you just treat people right, you don't lie to them, and you put in the hard work. Do you know what? You might still fail because it's not an easy thing promoting these things. However,
it's not. No, but you know what? As well, just be nice, because I always say the people that you're gonna be an arsehole to on the way up are the people that you meet on the way back down.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't take a lot to just be nice.
On those words of wisdom, Vicky, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was great.